time I get invited to a conference, I was like, what should I talk about? And this has been more like my slide at the beginning. As like that's the slogan we say in English, in French, in English, I don't know. Angular deliver web apps with confidence. So what helps developer ship web apps with confidence? And for this, I'm going to tell you a bit of the story of how we build Angular and how it helps actually help you ship applications with confidence. So the more you know how Angular works, how we build it, this is going to be my talk today, building Angular. So building Angular as a team who builds a framework. So like Eunice said, I'm Matt. I'm a software engineer. If you follow me on the social networks, I'm usually the guy who posts a picture from somewhere in Europe on the train, writing some code. Like he said, I'm part of a team for about one and a half year, 2 years now. And since recently, I started working full-time with the Angular team at Google on the framework itself, its stack, and its tooling. And if you want, you can find me on different social networks, LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub, Blue Sky, etc. So when we talk about Angular, we talk about something that's built by a team of people. And I don't know if you know, but there are a lot of people working on this project. When we talk just about the engineering part at Google, you have about 20 engineers working full-time on building Angular. So we got people working on framework, that's more or less the first row. We have people more dedicated to DevRel stuff. You have people working on more like the tooling. When I say tooling, it's the CLI mostly, and also the dev tools. And also we have people dedicated to work specifically on things like Angular material and the CDK, so the library of components that comes with Angular. So this is for a tool built by people, but also it's also built by you, the open source community. When you open an issue, when you open a PR, you are part of the people that build this awesome tool. And thank you for this. So the question is, when we build something, where does it live? It's in our hearts. Nah, just kidding. It's mostly on GitHub. So the code itself, when I say it lives, this is where we work. So people at Google, even if they are at Google, all the tools, the main place where we commit code, where we have our issues, where we review in the open all the PRs, your PRs, our own PRs, everything is public. You can track the whole work, so it means that we can't hide anything from you. So if you are like people, if you know like India, who is a famous GD known for always sharing new PRs, new feature when they happen, when they're being opened on the GitHub repo. So it means that you can see everything before it even happens, before it's even released. So you can follow and trying to understand how things work. So yeah, but also we need to understand that it is for Google a framework that they use every day. It is built by Google, for Google, but also for the whole community outside of it. So I'm going to share a bit of information here. It's mostly public information, nothing that is confidential, etc. So it's information you could have found on the internet if you looked for it, if you know what you were looking for. So just so you know that when you work at Google, you have a tool called Google 3. It's a monorepo that is mostly based on some custom tooling. So it's not an NX monorepo for those who are that work with monorepos. Eunice loves NX. Imagine today there are more than 2 billion lines of code in this monorepo. It's huge. It means that almost more than half of Google's applications are on this monorepo. When I say more than half, you have, for example, Google Photo, Gmail, the whole. You the companies that belongs to Alphabet that also have their code on it. So it has a lot of application. And just if we talk about Angular apps, we have more than 4,000 Angular apps on this monorepo. So when I say it's big, you can't fathom how big it is. So imagine we have everything in this. You have the apps, but also we get the framework on it. And when I say it's very custom, it doesn't use public technologies. It's things developed by Google. And for example, we don't even use Git. We have a custom VCS which is called Piper. When we work on this, it doesn't have any branch. It's still a big old tech. It's trunk-based. Everything, you have only one branch. It's the main branch, plus the changes that will happen. So when you open something that's like a PR, it will always end up in the same trunk, let's say. There is a complex build tooling, which is called Blaze, also available in open source under the name of Bazel, that helps for build and testing the whole applications. It's a complex tool, but really awesome. Allows me, for example, to build any application I would want or test any application I would want inside the monorepo. I'll show you why it's very interesting for us developers who work on the Angular framework. And also, because it's a huge monorepo, you can't clone it on your own computer. It won't even fit on it. So you have a custom IDE, which is called Cider, which means, I don't remember exactly what it means, Cider, but it's an acronym you can find on the internet. And it's basically a VS Code that works directly in the browser that allows you to access whatever you want. So it's not even, so even the IDE is custom because of the environment, which is so complex. So, like I said, this is the environment mostly at Google, but when we work on GitHub. So regularly, when I say regularly, is several times a day, we synchronize GitHub with G3, so Google 3, the monorepo. Means that we almost copy what we have on GitHub into Google 3, and that's how we move the code we update it. And like I said, it is trunk-based, so it means that every application inside Google will use the same version. So it means it don't have the public version that we use. So there's no app inside Google that uses v19 because this concept doesn't exist. It uses, when you build something, the head. So if you are curious and go to whatever Angular applications it's published by Google, for example, here I use Google Font. If you go on Google Font, you open your debugger and look at the DOM, you will see that you have an NG version, which is 00 placeholder. It means that it was built from the monorepo with the latest version, etc. So this is the difference between your applications that you build based on a version and applications that are built inside Google. So what are the impact of saying that we work on a single branch, that every application uses the same, let's say the same commits, I mean, it's the same code that is used by all applications. It impacts a lot the team when they are developing the framework. It means whenever you make a change onto Angular itself, it cannot break another application at Google. So it means when we write the code, when we open a PR, we're like, okay, we need to check, will it break something at Google? And if it breaks something, the team is responsible for it. So we cannot land something that will break. So what happens is that the team needs to take care, for example, when we create a new diagnostic, a compiler diagnostic, something that helps you have warnings when you build your apps, we need to make sure that all the code has already been fixed before we are able to merge it. So it means that we cannot break any apps. And for this, we are able to leverage the custom tuning that we have at Google by testing the current code of Angular against the whole monorepo. So if you look at the PRs, you will see sometimes people mentioning something that we call pre-submit, or something that we call a top global pre-submit. What it is, it's a, we are able with the Bazel Blaze tooling to say, hey, I've changed this file, and Blaze is able to tell you, hey, it did impact like 3,000 applications, and you are able to test against those 3,000 applications. When I say test, it's unit test, it's screenshot test, it's a lot of different tests. So we are able to leverage the custom tooling, the monorepo, by checking, hey, this single change, will it break something at Google? And this happens before even this release when the code reaches the release. So it means that before you even can test the code, it will have been tested on several thousand of applications. And if ever someone submits something, so merge a PR and it breaks something without us being aware of prior to it, we often get a notification by someone say, hey, sorry, you broke my app. And what we often do is we revert what was breaking, investigate what happened, and first fix the applications, then we can merge again the code, which means that the Angular code itself, the framework itself, gets tested every day against thousands of applications. And this is one of the key points I want you to remember, to understand, is that before even the code reaches you, it has been tested. And it cannot be breaking for us. And if it has been breaking for us, it means that either we consider it's a minor breaking change that you can handle, or we will give you the tooling to help you migrate the code. And this is why when you do NG update, you get a bunch of schematics that run, that will update the applications and help you keep the code without any major breakages. So if I can give you an example of something that could look easy to learn, I mean, easy in a term of a change that we could do. We have an old issue, something about the query list changes, which is mostly typed within any type. This is mostly due because it's a very old code when TypeScript wasn't good enough to represent what we wanted to represent. And we've seen several people trying to say, hey, I would like observable any to become observable T, because query list is a generic class. Even myself, when I started doing some open source contribution, I said, hey, this is an easy one. I want to land it because it's easy. Well, it's easy to write. It's very hard to land, because you would have to change the whole code, because having any means that there is no type checking. So if you change it to T, you will see all the applications that do something messy with types that don't really match. So it means that we would have probably to fix thousands of applications that uses the query list, and it's very hard to learn, and it's actually not worth it for us and not worth it for you, because if you want to have better typings today, we have better alternatives. And the suggestion we make today is that use signal queries instead of the query list, which is used by the decorators, view child, view children, content child, content children. So you should better use the new APIs that won't be any breaking, because in a sense that you have to migrate them manually, and you won't have to change the type that could have been breaking if we made the change. So this is one of the easy cases where you see that something that looks easy to change has a major impact. We don't want you to bear with it, and also we didn't want to do it ourselves. So because we don't want to do it, we understand also that you don't want to do it. So when breaking change happen for us, they happen for you, and we want them to bring direct value for you. So now that I've said this, let's talk a bit how we work on providing new features on the framework. I did a little bit of digging to find out when the first commit was submitted, and it was actually September 18th, 2014. So Angular 2, which followed after Angular JS, started on 2014. That's 11 years ago. So how does a project that started 11 years ago, a code base that started 11 years ago, age so well? Well, basically, when you work for so long on a project, you need to think big picture. So today we have like a huge backlog, which, let's say, we have what the top issues on the backlog, something that we will work soonish. But sometimes you have the like long pitches issues. You know that in the future you want to go in this direction, and having a big picture helps you drive your project. Knowing where you're going, big picture helps you working day to day and helps you decide, hey, is it worth doing the change? Or because you know that you want to go in another direction, you will say, okay, I'll skip this because it doesn't fit in my big picture. And mostly this backlog is made of three different things. So ideas that the team itself has, some features we'd like to provide, some good ideas we have. Sometimes it's demands from other team at Google. Like I said, if we have 4,000 apps, it means that we have a lot of different teams that uses everyday Angular apps that to provide value either inside or outside of Google. So team needs, and also we like to address our famous public issues. Like for example, in the last few years, we shipped things like local template variables with the athlete. We shipped a new event feed on the forms, the event observables. What else did we do? I don't remember. Things like this. Well, mostly what we do, we go on GitHub, you can sort the issue by thumbs up, and you see which features the people want the most. Oh, see, yeah, something that happens is that people wanted inputs as observables. This is one of the most famous issues we had. And we've known for very long that we didn't want to integrate too much RxJS into the core of Angular, and also because it didn't fit the model that we had. So when people said they wanted observables, input as observables, they wanted actually some reactivity and things you might not be aware of, but your input is not actually an event. It's a state that you want to read. And when we introduced the signals, we understood that we had the opportunity to finally provide the feature that you were looking for, which means reactivity on your inputs. So yeah, famous issues. This is why also it's important for you as a community, as people that work day to day with the framework, to just also tell the team, hey, this feature is really important to me. I'm giving you a thumbs up to show you that it is a feature that I think it might be worth working on. So, like I said before, driven by long-term goals. If we can give maybe 2 examples of this, one of the directions we want to go is doing single file compilation. So this is different from single file components. We see sometimes people use the acronym SFC. Here, when I say single file compilation, means that for TypeScript doesn't need to import other files to understand how we can compile the file. This is something that will help us build faster to improve the performance on the compiler long term, for example. And also, we're thinking about improving the template authoring. So when we want to add new features to the templates, we really think about that templates should not diverge too much from TS. So we won't add too much sugar on the template syntax, so it won't diverge too much from TS. So continue on the topic of how you support a project of years so it can age well. That is more like in terms of engineering, what you want to do to not make it depend on the people's memory, because people come to companies, they leave companies, the knowledge comes and leaves. So you need to have some kind of records. And things we use, for example, first when we think about the future, a feature is like, what's the core idea we want to address? Like and also for you when you write apps, express in terms of what is the requirements you expect from a feature. Also, once you have this, then you say, okay, if there are some major architectural impacts, you just want to have some records saying, okay, we went in this direction for this, and this reason, and maybe we didn't choose to go in the other direction for this or that reason. So architectural decision records, and also in the end, then for something smaller, design docs saying, okay, we think for this issue, we tried to go, we went with this, but for this, and this reason. Let's say design docs is a much smaller scope than the ADR. Also, something that I learned over the years, when I started, I always heard, yeah, we should comment the code. And when you first try to comment the code, imagine you have a line where you something plus one, and you add the comment, hey, increment the counter. This is not something that is very useful in a comment. When I say well-commented code base, imagine when you have to work around some issue, a good comment would be you mention another GitHub issue saying, okay, this is the issue I am having here. You mentioned the GitHub issue. I'm saying I'm working around it. This is why I'm doing this. So the code should tell you when good name, variable, function, etc. is important. It's auto-commented code, but sometimes there is something you cannot express in your code. So this is what I meant by well-commented code. It should tell you more about the code that the code is able to express itself. And while working on the code base, so I've been working almost 10 years before actually contributing to Angular, and I've learned so much by seeing how they comment the code, how they express the things that actually the code cannot. It helped me a lot to understand why a well-commented code base help us age a code base well. And which is really funny, you can still find today all to-dos from 8 to 10 years ago. Something that was a good idea, maybe it's still a good idea. We will address it, maybe not, we don't know. But it helps you understand where you're coming from and why the code is this way today. And also something that's very important is a commit tree. So do yourself a favor. If you never amended a commit, learn to do it. If you never really rebase and only do merge commits, please learn how to rebase, because it helps you navigate the code, look into the past. It's really important. Sometimes when I go back to code that is back to 2018, 2017, it helps a lot to understand the past to help improve the future. So a clean commit tree depends on you developers, engineers, and do yourself a favor and do maybe yourself a favor to the people that will be working on the project after you. So another things, something that I love. So I spend a lot of time curating the GitHub repo for issues, for PRs, etc. And we get a lot of feature requests. When we get a feature request, so we often get people say, I want you to do this. Change this piece of code. And most of the time, it's an XY issue. So people are telling me what to do and not expressing why they want to do it. And what we love to see is when you have a problem, we want you to tell us what your problem actually is. And we want sometimes to have a repo saying, okay, I have maybe a bug, or maybe this is how I do it today, but I consider that what I'm doing today is not clean enough. It's like I have to put a bunch of code that I shouldn't have because I think the framework should provide more to me, some better APIs. We have a passionate discussion yesterday about testing APIs with Eunice. So just tell us a story, tell us your story, give us a repro, and help us understand what you need so we can get a better picture of how we could address the root cause of your problems. Also, there's something, because Angular, I don't want to say Angular changed a lot. It's more like by listening to how things evolve in the ecosystem, into the web ecosystem, learning from what other frameworks do, we came to use new patterns. The fact that we use signals. So Angular didn't invent signals. It was already being used in other frameworks. People like Ryan Cognato who built the Solid.js framework, which heavily uses Signals, who did a lot of, I want to say podcasts. It's more than podcast or streaming. This guy is doing sometimes 5 hours on YouTube talking about a topic he's really passionate about. So they talk about things, and we bring new features into the framework itself. And people say, okay, they want all the things they had before, like they want new operators from RxJS for Signals or things like this. And you need to understand that things take time to settle. So we often like to take time and to look at what you're doing, what people are doing with the new code at Google, and trying to understand how they think of the APIs, how they want to use it. And once we see some patterns, build on top of it. So take time, take a step back to then provide something that is very valuable, that we don't want to remove, let's say, maybe in 2 years. So basically about features, this is what led us for next week.